Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Katie, a member of the CK-12 team, and my colleague Felix and I will be running this learning management breakout session on CK-12 and Google Classroom. We're so glad you've joined us. While we are hosting this as part of the CK-12 Certified Educator Program, this is not one of the core sessions, meaning there isn't an assignment that goes with it, and it does not count towards your 5 live session requirement. We do, however, have a great session resource page for you in the matching topic in Google Classroom. This includes information on assigning modalities from CK-12 into Google Class and seeing student progress within Classroom. We'll also post it in the chat window for you if you want to access it directly. Given this is meant to be a short webinar to specifically highlight CK-12's integration with Google Classroom, let's jump right into the content. As we go, feel free to post any questions you have for us in the Q&A window. Today's session is called Google Classroom Integration. For those of you using CK-12 and Google Classroom, or you're using one and you're interested in incorporating the other, this is a great place to start. Specifically during this webinar, we'll be covering the following topics. Concept-based learning and modalities. So we'll go over a quick review of the different types of modalities available to assign from CK-12, as well as how each type is recorded in Google Classroom. So this is just a little reminder, if you guys were in our practice and assignment sessions, if you are using Google Classroom, you should keep your class within that environment. Don't also try to assign and create classes in CK-12. Pick one or the other and use that for assigning so that all your assignments and all your reports show up in that environment. And so because of that, we want to also show you that integration with Google Classroom. So we used to have a share option. We now can assign a class. And then you can see student progress in your Google Class. You don't have to even go into CK-12 to see that progress. So just a quick refresher on the types of modalities that you can assign. We assign our content into concepts, and we support these with these distinct skills with a variety of modalities. So these modalities that you can assign include reads that counts both as a section of a textbook or as standalone reads. You can assign videos, our Plix interactives, those little quick interactions and questions that go with them, full physics and chemistry simulations, so systems along with kind of an opening question and other applications, practice, as well as customized practice in what we call quizzes, and real-world applications. Now, when we talk about how we assign these, your practice and your quizzes give you an actual score as well as detailed information about what that looks like. Your reads, videos, real-world applications, and your interactives are really learning modalities. And so we give students full or no credit for working with them, but there's no percentage score or time or anything that works with that. So in an LMS, such as in Google Classroom that we're working with today, the adaptive practice, they would get a % of the score that you chose for that assignment. So it's defaulted to 100. If you change that point value for that particular assignment, it would be whatever that percentage score would be, with 10 correct being 100. For questions, it would be the number of correct out of the total number of questions, and whatever that percentage is would be the same percentage of the score that you chose. And then for any assignments that you made for other modality types, they would either have 0 if they haven't done it and turned it in yet, or they would have the full score that you assigned for that particular piece. This chart is in the resource page for this session. It's in the resource page for getting started with practice and assignments. It's a great quick reference for kind of how things are scored, when students can turn them in, and how that works. So just know that you can come back to this at any point in time because it's on that session resource page for you. So I think with that, I'm going to turn this over to Felix, who's going to explore our Google Classroom integration. And he's going to start with talking about sharing versus assigning.
Thanks, Katie. Hello, everyone. Let me just share my screen with you all. So right now, I've kind of already jumped into a particular concept on mixture. And so I just want to kind of go over sharing in Google Classroom versus creating an assignment that allows the grade pass back to happen. So this little airplane on the bottom right is, you'll see that on most pages, and where it's available, you'll be able to click on the share on Google Classroom. So what that does is I can do it for you. It's going to basically send whatever page you're on, this URL directly to your Google Classroom. And this is I guess, a tool that Google themselves provide. So once you're inside of this sort of context, we have no control other than just providing the URL. So you can select the classroom that you want to share something to. And then within this drop-down here, you have a couple of options. So there's a create an assignment, ask question, make an announcement. If you do happen to choose create an assignment from here, this will not give you the grade pass back, which is probably what you would want if you're going to create an assignment. Otherwise, you can make an announcement. So I can go ahead and do that in case you haven't seen it. You probably have seen this on other websites if you've done this. And so that will post to your classroom. And then once it's in there, this first test, this is what it looks like. So let me go back. So that's sharing. So if you want to create an assignment and have the grades actually show up in Classroom, you're going to want to jump to this assign the classroom link over here. And then here's where you'll actually be creating assignments that kind of CK-12 can talk to Google Classroom. So real quickly, I'll point out there's a title here. You can change the title of this. By default, we just pick the title of their actual resource. You can add instructions. And then right here where it says Google Classroom, you'll want to go ahead and click on that. Like Katie mentioned earlier, you don't have to have a classroom in CK-12 and in Google Classroom. If you're just using Google Classroom, you can stick with just Google Classroom and not worry about having to try to manage on both sides. And so here you're going to want to connect to Google Classroom. I've kind of reset this so this is like a first time connection. So here you'll have an option to choose like an account if you're signed into multiple. And then if this is your first time doing this connection, you'll also see the set of permissions. If you don't click allow, then you'll always be stuck at this connect to Google screen. And basically what this is asking us for the information we need to be able to allow the integration to work. So we need to be able to view your classroom, see the students who are on the roster so we can send assignments to them. View the email, that's so when we're kind of managing the integration to be able to verify if you have an account already on CK-12, we can kind of make sure we're using the correct one. Pass back grades and manage assignments. So I'm going to go ahead and click allow. And you'll only have to do that permissions piece once. You will see the connect to Google, but that's more for the choosing the account. And then after that, you won't see it. So now that I have this, I only have one class in this case. The due date's optional, so you can provide a due date or not. I'll leave the due date blank, and then I'll go ahead and click on this assign. And while it's building that assignment, and then you get a pop-up saying it was okay. So if you click on this link here, it just takes you to the class. So I open that in a new tab. Sorry. So here's that assignment that was created. And I'll actually go back one page. So once the assignment is sent to Google Classroom, you have a few options here that you kind of don't have within CK-12 directly. So let's say we created this mixture assignment and maybe you just want to send it to one student. So up here in the left, let me just jump back. So what I did was I clicked on this, I did edit.
Felix, I'm going to have you pause for a second.
Sure.
We have a couple people say that they're not able to see what you're clicking on. Let's have you reshare the whole window and not just that piece, and maybe they'll see all the pop-ups.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, all right, let me go back to that real quick. So I think you guys missed this piece. So you guys probably missed the permissions. Okay, so let me do that, show you guys that again. So this is what happened, and this is probably what you guys have missed. So I'm connecting to Google. It brings up a pop-up here. So you can choose accounts if you're signed into multiple. Otherwise, it'll just pick the one that you're signed into. And then this was the permissions piece I was referring to. So this part, you'll see the one time, once you allow it, then you won't see that anymore. And if you don't allow it, then you'll just be stuck at this connect to Google. So after you do that piece, then you're okay. And then so that's the step you guys I think missed. So I'll go back to this guy. So that was the assignment we created. Here I was showing how to edit. So this assignment was added to Google Classroom. I'm going to edit this here, and then this drop down here allows you to select a specific student to assign to. So right now, the default, we always assign it to the entire class, but you can always come back and just pick one or two students. You can select whoever you want, and that'll just that'll just be available for that one student. And then if you didn't set a due date, you can set one here. And if you have any topics, you can set that here. So I'll just go ahead and save that. So if you notice, it had 3 that were not done. Now it just has the 1. So it's just for this student here. So that's kind of a nice feature that Google has and that you can kind of leverage within Classroom. So that's creating one assignment. So let me go back to browse and kind of show you finding assignment. So once you're on a browse page, you can kind of jump around in here, see what looks interesting. And for any of our resources or modalities that are assignable, you'll see this assign a class on the left. If you don't see that, that means it's not something that you can assign. However, like something like this activity, this isn't an assignable, but you do have the option to share it to Google Classroom. And if for whatever reason you did want to make an assignment out of that, you could, but you wouldn't get, the grade pass back because one, it's not supported, and 2, we don't have that available from the share point. But that is an option to share it with Google. And then I'll actually I'm going to go into my library because I know this is a pretty common thing for a lot of you educators. So you can assign resources from your library. If it has to be one of the supported types. So like you can do this quiz. I'll do that here. So this is a quiz that I customized. Again, it looks all the same, so I won't go through that. And I do have this already assigned as an example, but you can do that. And let me jump back here. One other thing that's pretty big is probably the Flexbooks that you're using. So what I did with this one was I had bookmarked it so that it's available in my library. I didn't even customize this. One thing I would call out is that you can't assign the entire Flexbook, but you can do, say, like a section within it. So notice there's no assign a class. If you did want to add this, actually, I'll show you what I did on one example. So again, there's no assign feature. And then here you actually have the assign to class. And what I did on one example was, sorry, there's a toolbar that's right above me. So you can actually post a link there. And then when you create the assignment, so that's one way, like if you have, I should have modified that link, but let me open up this tab. So here you see the actual link. I could have dropped the whole section piece and just had it go directly to the book, but that's kind of nice. If you have, say you're assigning a section and you want to also reference the book, you can copy the URL and then have that available kind of all in one go. So that's assigning Flexbook sections out of your Flexbook. So if you kind of have things bundled and already packaged within your Flexbook, and it makes it easier, then you can go to the section and assign them as needed. and then they'll show up there. And also, one thing I will also kind of show you is, so when you're looking at it on CK-12, you notice like it has all this stuff on the left, but let me show you what it actually looks like when your students will open it. So I'm going to switch to a student view. So right now, this is one of my students for this class. So here's all the assignments that's kind of been posting to this class. And here you can see it a little bit better, the last one we just did. So I'm going to click on this. So this is going to sign in the student and then take them to that assignment. And so notice it might look a little bit different, and that's just because this views that we're using here is just to kind of focus on the content. So a lot of the stuff is stripped away, and it's just kind of just the content itself. So since this was a student and they've accessed this assignment, let me now go back. Refresh. So now this is marked as done because they've accessed it, and they just got full credit. So whatever the score was, that's what they get in the gradebook. And real quick, let me show you the teacher. So this is now updated. So now here we have one that's done. One thing I did forget to mention was when you're editing assignments, by default, we always, the scores that we set are always 100%. And you can change that here. You can modify like the number of points. So we always, by default, use 100 as our point value, but you can always modify that and change it. So here you see that the student did access this and they got full credit for, accessing the assignment. And I'm going to now go back to the student view and show you kind of what a practice looks like that's been assigned. So here's one. Let me click on this and open it. So this is one that I've kind of already done. So you can see the student gets like a report after they've finished. If you've been in previous sessions, you've probably seen a bit of this. And they have the option to keep practicing. So if they want to try to get a better score, they can. They can do this as long as the assignment isn't past due on Google Classroom. And then here you see kind of like the questions that they received, what was right, what was wrong. And also up here, the total number of questions, easy, medium, hard, etc. And then there's things for them to review. So even if you're just assigning practice, they'll still have references to related materials that can kind of help enhance their performance and their knowledge on a particular subject. So that's the student accessing the practice. So they could start this and do it and submit. And then I just want to point out, so I'm going to, sorry for keep switching back and forth. So now I'm back on the teacher view. So for that same practice, I'm going to click on this guy here. And so this was the student that we were looking at. I'm going to click on this attachment, which is a report. So for our practices, like Katie had mentioned, you will get a detailed report. So it's basically the same. It's exactly the same as what the student was seeing. So as a teacher, you can review, what questions they were asked, and see how they actually performed. And so that's just available for the practices. Anything else, they're just going to get like the credit, no credit kind of point. Oops. Okay, and then let me go back. So I'm still on the teacher. The other thing that you can do that might be a bit helpful, you can also create assignments from your dashboard. So if you've kind of been browsing things recently viewed, maybe you're on earlier during the day and you come back and Now you want to create assignments from some of those resources that you saw. We have a recently viewed section here. There's also trending practice videos kind of based on what topics you've selected or are browsing. So this is kind of nice because you can still create assignments from here. You can preview and place in your library, but assign a class, the pop-up is going to come up. And then from here, it's the same workflow as before. So that might help streamline some of this if you're assigning multiple things at the beginning of the school year, however.
Thanks, Felix. We've been getting some questions that I want to answer. So I'm going to have Felix answer a couple specific ones, and then I may steal the screen back to show you guys some stuff. But we had questions about like assigning to Google. When students view, do they need a CK-12 account to view? And so that one, because you can sign into CK-12 with Google, if they're in Google Classroom, they're still seeing it in that environment. They're not actually going over to CK-12 and logging in. Their Google login, if they're in Google Class, will take care of all that, so they don't need a separate account or anything like that. And then do we, in terms of like I'm trying to figure out which ones we want to pass to you. With the practice assignments, do students get the grade report automatically, or do we, the teacher, need to send it to them? So maybe you could go back to that student for a second and just show that like they saw that the second they turn that in, and then they should be all set.
Okay, so the question was,
Do the students get the grade report automatically?
oh, okay, not automatically. So sorry, yeah. So once they do an attempt, unless they click on this turn in button here, so say they wanted to turn this in, that's when the score gets submitted to Google Classroom. If they don't click on that, then you won't see it. So until they actually do that click there, that's when you'll see it. And then let's see, there's a couple other questions.
So Felix, we have a couple kind of higher level questions, and I can take those I'm going to bump back into that piece. But before we do that, I had a question about editing the score. So the score was showing up as that 100 out of 100 in Google Class. If you could maybe just show them if they want to change the point value for an assignment within Google Classroom, or change like the number of students that they're sending it to within Google Class, how they might go about doing that, that would be great.
Okay, so changing the point value, let's see. Where's that practice? So like this guy, if I change it. So there, I just updated here. It still says 70 out of 10. So you can adjust it here, or let me actually, let's see. I want to see if I do this, it's going to update. There you go. So there I submitted again as the student, but if you already have the grade, you can adjust it here. So like say that was 70, you could change that to 7. But this is where we actually change the score value. And you can do that even before something that was submitted by any of the students. So you can change that now. It doesn't have to be like after someone has submitted. You could do that at any time. And then the other one was changing who the number of students it's assigned to. So that was this little icon here. There's an edit. And then, so by default, we're assigning to all students. So I'm going to check that off. And then you can select who you want to assign that to. So if I actually change that, let's see. So I actually removed it from one of the students who had access earlier, which is this student here. Let me go back. So now that's not even on their stream. Let me just refresh that so you can see that. So if you're just assigning it to a select student, if it's not selected for them, they won't see it at all. So even though the student had already accessed it and got a score for it, since I assigned it to just this particular student, this one no longer has access.
Thanks, Felix. I'm going to steal the screen back from you for a minute. I'm going to show you one question that we had about assigning to multiple classes. You had one class in there. If you had multiple classes in your Google Class environment, you would see these like this, and you'd see you could assign to multiple classes and set optional different due dates if you wanted to, or the same due date. You can select all if you have a bunch of them. You are sending the same instructions to all of them and the same link, but you could choose different due dates. So you can batch assign to all of your classes if you have multiple classes. And then I'm going to do one more share from here and go back to this keynote just to remind you guys, this was the slide that I was showing you before we had questions about assigning, like if they access it, they get full credit for reads and videos and real world applications. Once they access it, there's no timestamp attached to their grade. They just get full or no credit. For the Plix and Sims, they have to interact with it first before they get credit for it. So those are exploratory pieces, and then practice and quizzes get that percentage. So that's how that part works. And then I'm going to head in from here. We had some questions kind of in general about when you might use Google Classroom. And so this tools and apps page, ck12.org/tools and apps, which you can find in the footer of our pages as well. This has information on all of our practice options, our practice app, our Flexbook app, our Sims app, as well as integration with all these different learning management systems. And so we got one question that said, when would I choose to use Google Classroom? When might I choose to use something different? It really depends on your needs. If you're working in a school district, it's often the school is using Canvas or the school is using Google Classroom, and therefore, if you're already using that to manage student assignments and share resources, then we recommend that you use that platform to assign so everything is in one place. If you're teaching a few students, if you're homeschooling, if you're working on your own, you're welcome to just use CK-12 classes and stay within that class environment. The one thing I do like about Google Classroom that is available is that option to deselect students basically from assignments. So if you wanted to kind of assign to subsets of your class, in CK-12 you would just create separate classes. So some options, but kind of it's really based on if you're using one of these learning management systems, then we recommend that you use CK-12 within or shared to that platform or assigned to that platform in Google Classroom. And that hopefully clarifies some of those pieces. If this is brand new to you, if you're kind of haven't seen practice and assignments yet, I recommend the Getting Started with Practice and Assignments and our Customizing Adaptive Practice and Assignments. The customizing one we're hosting this afternoon as well as next week, but we really recommend that you do the Getting Started session first so that you're coming in with the basics and are ready for the advanced class. And if you're one of those schools that uses Google Classroom and Canvas and Schoology, which I've seemed to have found a bunch in my travels, you may want to join us for our breakout session on those as well. And that will be offered next week. We did one yesterday, so you could see the recording already if you wanted to. There is no assignment, but we do have that resource page in there, so I definitely recommend checking that out in our Google Class for the program, and that will have some other information. You may also want to check out the resource pages on Canvas and Schoology if you use them, or the ones on Practice as well. Please feel free to fill out our feedback form and let us know how we're doing, both for this session or other ones. We continue to update our webinars based on that feedback, and we've gotten some great feedback so far this summer. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for joining us. You can email us with any questions, and then we'll kind of go back over and answer Q&A. If you have all your questions answered, feel free to head on. If you have more questions, feel free to stay, and we will see if we can get all those answered before we wrap up today. So let's see what our first question might be.
Okay. Answer live. Can you hide? Okay, so someone was having a hard time assigning and announcing parts of the Flexbook. I can show you that. So I'm not sure if you're having, in order to create an assignment and have the actual grade pass back, we only allow it for sections on a Flexbook. So if you weren't seeing this assigned to class here, you might not be at the section level. Let me share my screen so you can actually see. Okay. That's better. Okay, so I had, let me just pop right out. So I'm at the table of contents, and what I was just doing was drilling down into like one of the sections, because you'll notice on the side here, you don't see the assigned to class. But once I get into a section, I do see it. So this is how you can, and this is if you need to create an assignment that does like the grade passback feature. If you're not really concerned with the grades, or you did want to create an announcement, what I did there was clicked on the share, this little plain icon that says share me. I clicked on that, and then from here, there's this share on Google Classroom. And then so from here, you can select your class, and if you want to do an announcement, you can do that. I'm going to click go and read this. And I'm going to post that to Google Classroom. And so that will, and so any page that's available, you can do that. So it's not restricted to just a section. Like if you wanted to do the entire Flexbook and have the Flexbook in your classroom, you could do that as well. So it's here. I mean, you could share this page. Pretty much anywhere you see that icon, you can do the share on Google Classroom. So hopefully that helps. If not, feel free to reach out to us. And
So Felix, the next question that we have is asking about what happens if a student retakes an assignment for a higher grade. Would it hold multiple reports, or does it only hold the most recent one?
Okay, that's a good question. So it won't do multiple reports. Let me find that practice. So if they want to, actually, let me show you the students. It's going to hold the last one they submitted as far as the attachment goes. So if the student wants to submit, you'll still see the score, but if you want the updated report, what the student will need to do is unsubmit this. And then they'll be able to add a new attachment. So that could be the latest. And then once they do that, just click on this. So the unsubmit part should happen before they want to submit maybe their latest report. The score will still come through. It's just the attachment that will not attach if there's already something there. So this is the student. What I'm doing as the student was I clicked on the unsubmit action. And then from here, if they got a new score, they could click turn in again. The score will be there, and also the latest attempt of the report will also be there. But yeah, so it won't hold multiple reports. It's kind of the first one that comes in is there, and then if the student has like a higher attempt that they want to do, maybe you're seeing like 80 or 100% now versus the 7 from earlier. You can ask the student to unsubmit that submission and then just open that practice and then just click turn in one more time. And that'll get you the updated report. And and I guess they also have access to this link here. So if it's easier for them, right-clicking on it, they can copy this link and maybe add it as like a private comment. So maybe that's a little easier to do. So post that. So that way they don't have to actually unsubmit it. But then if I go back here. Okay. So here it has the link to their attempt. Or sorry, maybe the better place to grab the phone. But yeah, so for students, they'll have to unsubmit if they want that. You'll always get the latest score, but the report is a little trickier.
Thanks, Felix. We have one last question in the Q&A, and then we'll probably wrap up this webinar. The question is, do grades report on Google Classroom or CK-12? Grades show up wherever you assigned your content. So if you are assigning content to that Google Class option and picking Google Classroom, you will see your grades within Google Classroom. If you were using CK-12 classes, you would see your grades there. That's one of the reasons why we highly recommend you pick one and stick with it, and don't try to create classes in both places. If you are using a learning management system like Google Classroom or Canvas or Schoology, please assign to or within those platforms, and you'll see all your grades and pieces there. If you're using CK-12 and you're not using one of them, then that's when you would use CK-12 classes. You will not see grades in the opposite version. You'll only see grades wherever you report that, or sorry, wherever you assign that piece. Cool. So I think that is kind of the end of that piece. So we're going to wrap this up at this time. If you have any other questions, feel free to email us. And we hope to see you on some future webinars.